Get started today with a comprehensive team leader toolkit and take your remote or hybrid team to the next level. Learn more at www.set2lead.com.
Welcome to the Set to Lead podcast, the online mentoring platform for emerging and current leaders. My name is Marianne Samdi, leadership coach and talent development expert, and I will be your host. Welcome to the show, Diana.
Well, thank you so much, Mary Ann. I'm so excited to be here today. I'm glad that we can make this happen.
So am I. On today's show, we're going to talk a little bit about hiring best practices. I know that's your thing, but before we get started and take a deep dive, tell the audience a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so it's an interesting background. I've been in human resources for approximately about 30 years or more, and I stumbled into it by mistake. It wasn't something that I had to, made a conscious decision that this is the area I was going to go in. But I had worked for some very good companies earlier in my career. One of them was Bose Speaker, the speaker company, and I was always impressed with how the human resource department engaged with the rest of the staff. And they really set me up for the rest of my career, just in terms of helping me and giving us information that I would use even now today. But, I saw the impact that they were able to have. And eventually I decided that this is the route, that I wanted to take. And so when I became a consultant and I started working with small businesses, one of the things that I found is that I really wasn't able to help them the way that I wanted until I helped them handle their HR problems. And so a lot of times that is recruitment, that is hiring, that's employee retention, that's, employee issues, all those things that come along with HR. And so it is the stability of the organization. And so if you don't have that as a stability within your organization, all the other things that you want to do in terms of expansion will be a little difficult. I'm not going to say that you can't do it, but it's going to be a little bit harder to do because, you need people to get the job done. And so after a certain amount of years, I just realized, wow, this is my, my area. This is my sweet spot. This is where I felt the most comfortable and where I was able to have the most impact. So I just stayed in that area and just continued to grow in it. So I've had the opportunity to work for some very large global companies. I mentioned Bose Speakers, and then also Omega, the watch company, where I came in and I wound up being their HR director for the United States and really helping them to shape their retail department.
Well, I'm really glad you took that route because, like you, I do believe that you need people to get the job done. And not everybody knows how to navigate that whole people dynamic when it comes to building and sustaining a business.
Yeah, you know what? You just said something that's very important. You said not everybody knows how to navigate it, but it's so important that everybody should know how to navigate it. Whether you're a CEO or whether you're, a hiring manager or you're a supervisor, it involves people. And so understanding how do I get the best out of people? How do I, when I'm looking at hiring people, what type of individual do I want to hire or have on my team is really important. And especially for small business owners, giving that thought before they just jump out there, because a lot of times they don't have the resources in terms of deep pockets and money to spend on people that don't work out. And so the average cost, if you make a mistake in hiring, for a entry-level position, could be anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000. But if you're talking about, an upper-level position, it could be $40,000. And I don't think anybody has that type of money, that they can waste right now, where it could be going to other things within their company.
Absolutely, Diana. So with that said, I'm wondering, in your experience, what traits do great hiring managers have? And when I say hiring managers, that could be an HR person, that could be the CEO, that could be their right hand. Whoever is responsible for hiring, what traits make for great success?
Okay, so the very first one, and for me, it's one of the most important ones, I'm going to say great listener. You know, when you're interviewing people, you're there to gather information. And what normally happens, when somebody applies for a job, they're putting their best foot forward, as they should. And I equate it to dating. When you go on a first date, you don't tell everything, that's happening there. You want to get to know the person and see if it's going to go any further. And it's the same way. Your candidates are not going to just tell you everything. And so it's up to you as a hiring manager to really be able to discern or create an environment where you can really have an organic conversation, but that you're really, really listening so that you're able to get all the information that you need. And as the candidate is speaking, you're really, really looking into what it is that they're saying and how it equates to how they would fit into your organization. So I'm going to say, for me, I think that being a great listener is absolutely key. And it doesn't matter who's doing the hiring, whether, as you mentioned, it's the CEO, whether it's a hiring manager, whether it's a supervisor, really being able to be a great listener so that you can really gather the information and see if this person is going to be right for your organization. Another one I think is a great trait is to be able to be a good storyteller. And so the reason why I say be a good storyteller is you want to be able to tell your story in such a way, whether it's the company story, whether even it involves a little bit about your story and why you're there at the organization, because you want this person to see what the future can hold for them. You want this person to see what opportunities might be when they get their foot in the door and how this is a great environment for them. So you have to be able to tell great stories. And so that was one of the things that I taught my staff when I worked at Omega. I had like a staff of 4, and it was really, how do you tell that story? How do you create that, story and that environment so that they're just chopping at the bits. They're like, yes, I want to work here. This is a great place to work, but you have to know the story. So, I think gone are the days where it's just a really boring interview. It's like you're just, reading questions from a piece of paper and, the candidate answers and that's it. That's the change. That's the difference in what we're doing now versus years ago.
I love that you mentioned storytelling as one of the traits. And of course, there's probably a gazillion traits, but you focused on these 2. I think, maybe you come back, because I think we could do a whole episode on just storytelling and how to create that story for your organization.
Yeah, it's really important. In fact, I have a course that's called Hire for Growth, and one of the modules that's in there is on storytelling and how important it is to the organization. And if you take a look at it, every great company has a story. I mean, we can name them off. You could take a look at Starbucks. You could take a look at Warby Parker's. You could take a look at Chick-fil-A. They all have these stories as to how the organization was founded and where they are today. And so understanding what that story is and be able to have a conversation and talk about it during an interview process is priceless.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What are your thoughts in incorporating that prospect into the story? Is that something you do during orientation or onboarding, or can you start that process during the interview?
I think it's important to even start it during the interview process. And that's why I, tell the story, because I want them to see themselves in the picture. If you tell a great story, then this person is already visualizing, where they fit into the story. It's just kind of like going out and looking for a home and buying a home. When you go to a home and you go to an open house, it's set up so nice and everything, and you walk in. And so immediately what that person is doing is visualizing themselves now in this house and the way that it is. And it's the same thing with telling a story about a company. You want them to ultimately see themselves in that position, in that company.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to go to another question that I had in mind. And you just talked about the traits, and those were phenomenal. Let our listeners in on some of the popular hiring trends for 2023. If I'm not mistaken, I think in 2022, and even probably before that, diversity was a trend. I hate calling it a trend, but you know what I mean, right? People are prioritizing it in their conversations. What are some of the trends do you think people should be paying attention to in 2023?
Well, you know what? There are quite a few that that's out there right now. And I think it's going to be up to the company that's recruiting whether or not they want to spend a lot of time on it. But of course, I'm going to hit the first one, which is remote work. Right now we know that especially coming out of this pandemic, people realize that they don't have to be in a building to be able to get work done. And so if I can be productive in my day and I can get the same amount of work done, even more, I have a quality of life. I'm not spending all this time on the road, to get back and forth to work. I'm not spending money on gas. It's a win-win. And so a lot of people are looking for opportunities to do remote work right now because it gives them a lot more flexibility within their lifestyles. And so that's a real important one. I would say artificial intelligence right now, we've been hearing a lot about it, and I think that that's going to continue. I will say from my own aspect, I'm not sure if that is the best, because when I just have this thing that when you're talking about human resources and you're talking about hiring, you're talking about people. And when you start lending that out to, artificial intelligence, there's a lot of room for errors to happen. And you can't get to know an individual through artificial intelligence. However, I am going to tell you it's definitely going to be on the rise. It's definitely out there, right now. And certainly us, continue social media and recruitment. I just did a LinkedIn workshop just earlier this week, and I gave the results in terms of right now, the amount of people that's on LinkedIn. As of January 2023, you have 900.2 million people on LinkedIn. That's a staggering amount of people. And really, at this point, you have 11% of the Earth's population is on LinkedIn. So it's just going to definitely continue and growing in terms of engagement. They're up by 22% since 2022. So that's going to continue to build. I can see that continuing to grow, that particular platform, because it is a professional platform. It is a platform where you can go to actually recruit people. And then, of course, we have employee branding. I do see that a lot of companies, are realizing the importance of branding their company as being a place that, employees want to work. And that takes time, and that does take, work in itself, because if you say that you have this type of environment, when people come in, you better have that type of environment. So the employee branding that goes along with it. And of course, we have employee retention. You can do all this. You can get people in the door. You can give them all kinds of perks. You can give them all kinds of things. But if they get there, if you've sold them a bill of goods and it's not what you told them, they're not going to stay. They're going to leave. So employee retention is really important. And how do you do that? And how do you maximize, the people that you have coming in?
I love the trends that you mentioned, but I want to step back a moment and talk about one of them. You talked about AI. We've been talking about AI for for years, but now it seems to peaking. It seems to have taken a peak, and now it's more of a public phenomena. I wanted you to describe how AI is impacting recruitment. Are there specific ways that AI is now on the scene?
I'll be honest, I haven't had a lot of my hands in it. It's just basically what I've seen. I haven't, done any of it myself. But if we take a look at it, and you just mentioned, Marianne, it's been around for a while, just even in terms of, keyword search when people put in their resume. And, so I think that there's opportunity there, but I think that we also have to be careful, because at the same time, we want to make sure that it's the right opportunity and that we're giving everybody the same opportunity in terms of fairness when they come in, and it's not used in the wrong way. So I think that's the key when it comes to artificial intelligence, and realizing that, there's no substitute for, a human being. I can have AI, I can have something that can predict and say things based upon what it is that they think I would say, but that may or may not be accurate. And when you're dealing with people who have life situations and things going on, you really can't really delve in as much as you want to really find out. And so I just think that there's at some point, we're going to have to take a look at, does it work for everything that we want to do?
Are you seeing that some businesses think that AI will actually replace some of the roles they're currently hiring for?
I know that, I'll be honest, in terms of talking, it's more talk than anything. I haven't really, had my hands on the pulse of any organization that's using, AI to recruit and maybe eliminate, jobs. But I can see where that may be the case, because if you take a look at it, companies are always looking to streamline. They're always looking to cut costs. And Marianne, I know that you've been in the HR field yourself, and so you understand this. When it comes sometimes to the bottom line, they don't always see what HR brings to the table. It's not like marketing where you can see your ROI, right away. And so a lot of times, even when I've been in different organizations, when you come to the table and you're asking for certain monies or certain things, they don't see right away how that's going to impact the organization. But when you take a look at it, your people are your best brand ambassadors. They're the ones that's going to sell your product. They're the ones that, tell other people about the products. They're the ones that, represent the company. And so you have to remember that there's no replacement for that. And so, it's just like today. I'll give you, an example. I mean, years ago, like handwritten letters were the thing. People don't do that anymore. Your mail that you get all this automated mail, or you get all these things. But when you get a handwritten letter in the mail, even if it's a bill or even if it's somebody wanting something, you at least want to open it up, because it's like, wow, this is so unique. This is so different. And
Yeah,
so I think it's the same thing. It's like we're people. And so people have different needs that I don't think that ultimately AI is going to be able to, handle all of it.
agreed. Agreed. Thank you for expounding on that a little bit. Um, Talk about some of the hiring nuances that exist in different regions. I know that you're not just bound to the US with your hiring services and support. And so I was wondering, are there some nuances that exist in the whole hiring industry when it comes to the different regions you work in?
You know what? This is the thing, and this is the unique thing, or when I say unique, I mean it's universal. And once again, when you're talking about people, it's just universal. And I think understanding people or who that you're bringing aboard, and having something that allows you to find in and delve into that candidate, that's the common denominator. I don't care where you go, understanding it. Like I said, I'm in South Africa right now. And, even here, I do workshops and I've talked to people, and, when I speak to them, they have the same problems that, we have in the States when it comes to hiring. It's a matter of, how do I find that best person? How do I find a great person? How do I know that when this person comes on board and I've interviewed this person, that they can actually do the job that they said that they can do? That doesn't change. And that's what I found is, has been universal in anywhere that you go. Because at the end of the day, if you're hiring somebody, you want to know that they can do the job. You want to know that, that they can get along with other individuals that's there. You want to know that they're productive. You want to make sure they're not a toxic employee. I mean, that it doesn't matter where you go. It's the same. And so I think that there's more, as we say, there's more commonalities than there are differences.
Okay, excellent. Are there any mind shifts that you've noticed that need to be made for the average business owner when it comes to hiring?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I think the biggest mind shift is that there should be synergy between the employee and the company. I think gone are the days where, as a company, you're looking to hire someone, person comes in and, they hope that they get the job, and, the company feels like you're lucky if you could work for us. There needs to be that synergy that's there. And I think that those managers and those companies that understand that are able to adapt, and they'll be able to find find people that they need. But if they don't have that mindset, and I'll give you an example, I spoke to someone not too long ago, and they were sharing with me that the company that they were working with, the owner had an old mindset, and it was the mindset of, well, they should be happy to work here. They should be happy that we're giving them a job, and they didn't really value an employees. And so I think the biggest thing right now, and the mind shift, is valuing your employee. They are valuable. They're valuable access to your company if you're going to expand your company. And so that needs to be a shift in the mindset, of the individuals that's there and hiring, so that they can get the best people. Because if you don't have that mindset from the very beginning, you're not going to get the type of individual that you want working for your company.
Is
And
there a difference? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'll say it'll be a revolving door. Retention will be very difficult at that point.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there's a different mindset or approach from a hiring manager when they're dealing with a Gen Z versus all the other generations?
You know what? I think that there needs to be more of that. I mean, and when you take a look at our Gen Zs right now, they come in with a whole different mindset. And I've worked with organizations where, there's almost been a clash where you go in and you have people that have been there for a while, and you have, the demographic that are older, and then you have the Gen Z that's coming in, and, it's almost like all in water so much that they don't mix. And the reason why is the Gen Zs, they're looking for a quality of life. They're looking for things that they believe in as well, but they're also people that ask questions. And they want to know. And so you can't, the organization can't be as such, well, we'll just do it this way because this is the way that we've done it. And this is all that we've done. You're looking and you want to get the brightest people coming into your organization, and the brightest people are going to have questions. The brightest people are creative, and they are going to tap into that creativity, to do their job. But that includes asking questions and maybe, pushing back on something that does not totally make sense, because we did it like this for 20 years when there could be a better way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would imagine these folks that are being interviewed, everybody wants to work in an organization that has a great reward package, great compensation, and great perks. For someone who's a hiring manager or CEO, right? Yeah. Are there trending perks that they really should be looking into offering these new hires?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll go back to what I said earlier in terms of the remote working. We know that that's a main one right now. The remote working, if I don't have to be in that office, like 5 days a week, and I can work remotely, that would be perfect. And if I can't do that, a flex schedule. Maybe I don't need to come into the office 5 days a week, but I can come in maybe 2, or I can come in 3 days a week or whatever, but it's not every single day. So I think that those are some key perks for people right now. One of the perks that's out there, and I've heard some organizations doing it, is unlimited PTO, paid time off. And so, some organizations feel like, I can't do that. They'll take advantage. But you know what? The organizations are doing it. They find that, not only are people not taking advantages, sometimes they're not even using a whole lot of the pay time, the unlimited paid time off. So certainly that's, something that is key, for people. And of course, we always have healthcare, which is something that, people are looking for. And believe it or not, some people are looking for pet insurance. We know a lot of people are, have pets that are like their family. And so, having a company that will offer pet insurance, is definitely a plus. And of course, childcare support. If you have a company and you have to go into the office every day, and they have a place where kids can be, man, oh man, that just takes the worry out of a parent's head. They can go to work. They know that their child is at the same place that they are. It's a one-stop thing. When I come to work, you come with me. When I leave, you go with me. And so offering that support is definitely something that is crucial. And of course, student loans. The last company that I worked for, that we had a program where we for students that came in, and they were doing wanted to go back to school. It really allowed them to do that, and it was based upon grades. So if they got an A, the company paid 100%. If they got a B, I think it was a little less, or if they got a C, it was a little less. But imagine being able to go back to school and not have to worry about student loans.
Absolutely. I would sign up for that job. You know what's interesting? I think those are really some great perks. And I've been seeing lately, it's not, the masses, but it's interesting, a lot of organizations that are letting employees come to work with their pets. Have you heard about that?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting that you say that, because I talk about company culture a lot of times. And then so it really now, if that's the type of company that, allows people to come to work with their pets, if you have that company culture, if you're hiring somebody, this is important. You need to make sure that that aligns with that individual. Because if I'm a pet person, that's great for me. But if I don't really like pets and I'm going to be around pets, 8 hours a day, guess what? I guarantee you that's not going to be a great hire. That's not going to work out at some point. So really, when you're hiring people, also taking a look at your company culture and how does your company culture fit in, and is there synergy with that individual that you're hiring?
Yes. Lastly, Diana, I wanted to ask you, what are some of the best places to look for staff when you're a small company? Are there any ideas or avenues that they should tap into if they're new at this?
Well, I mentioned LinkedIn earlier. I think LinkedIn is a great resource, and you can find great people on LinkedIn. And the other place that I would say is an excellent place to look for people, and I've had a lot of great success going to universities. So getting graduates that are graduating from, they've graduated from a university and they're looking to start, or, get their feet wet. They're looking to start their career. That is an excellent place to really look for people. You get great individuals because they're motivated, they're excited, they want to take the what they've learned in school now and put it in place. And so university students are really great students. And a lot of times what happens, you can bring them on as an intern. Have them work for you, and then if it works out when they graduate, you can then hire them. I've actually had great success. I had an individual when I was with Omega, and he came for a summer internship. He was phenomenal. And as a result, I went to my brand president at the time and said, look, I don't want to lose this guy. Can I hire him? We didn't have a position. We had to create one for him. He was literally still in school at the same time and was able to graduate school and work for us part-time. And then as soon as he graduated, then he came on full-time. So it is a great way to get individuals. They're so anxious to take what it is that they've learned in school and now put it into practical use.
And these days, there's free and paid internships, right? Are you seeing more of one than the other?
It depends upon, where you go. I mean, where I've worked in the past, there have been, paid internships. Now it may not be where they're getting the same salary as other people, but they did get paid. But you know what? There are plenty of them that's unpaid. I mean, every year for the last 3 years, I've had students from Indiana State University. The school has approached me and asked me, did I have any opportunities for interns? And I've taken on interns, and it's been an unpaid internship, but they get a chance to take what it is that they're learning in school. They have a project that they have to complete at the end that they're responsible for, that they turn in, but it turns out to be a win-win situation. So it just depends upon the organization and where you go. But if you tap into universities that might be in your area, that's a great opportunity.
Great suggestion.
Yeah, so the thing is, following me, the best place to follow me is on LinkedIn. That's where I spend most of my time. And so if you go to LinkedIn, my profile is Diana L. George, and you can always reach me there. And then on my website, which is bygeorgehr.com. Thank
you, Diana.
Thank you so much, Marianne. This was so much fun. And thank you so much for having me on here. And I love talking about hiring, as you can tell.